And welcome everybody to Rick Snyder's Washington, where you get the whole story. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And today I'm going to push this hard so that you guys can buy it. Secrets of Caveman Cooking. It's not that big. Got lots of recipes, and it's 15 bucks signed, sealed, delivered. So when you're watching on replay, you can still do it. Um, let's see. And see, there's Steve's here. Okay. I'm just typing in a commercial here real quick, Steve. I know, I'm burning time. Sorry. All right. Okay. So, Steve's here. Bob's here. There you go. Bob, feel like I just talked to you. Uh, Traffic nightmare this past weekend? Well, that's every day in DC. Took me 3 hours to get home from Redskin Park the other day because I left at 4, and it took me 2 from DC one day, which is kind of about normal. So, anyway, for those of you who are wondering why I just hit this, this is my updated cookbook, Secrets of Caveman Cooking, Outdoor Grilling. Okay, so all tips of that, but some unusual stuff like shrimp on the bar, shark steaks. I have cooked everything in this book. I actually cooked as a kid in a restaurant. Smoked leg of venison. Oh, is that moose steaks? Yeah, I had first time I cooked moose steaks. Somebody I knew shot one out west. I overcooked it and screwed it up so bad. So let's try not to do that again. Billy goat gumbo. That's not bad, really. Rabbit stew, acquired taste. Skillet pizza. Yes, I do have pizza recipes in here. 15 bucks. Support the show. I'm not going to beg for money today. I'm going to beg you to buy a book because it just came out. I'd like to get a few of them out there. So if you can, buy a book. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Steve, we had this tornado alert right where I was. I went outside and looked. The clouds parted like they do in Charlotte Hall, and it didn't hit me, but which I'm grateful because I've been around tornadoes before, and it can get pretty rough. Mike, I know you may have cooked some caveman stuff, but have you really cooked like a caveman? Actually, cavemen were agrarians by and large. Um, yeah, a lot of nuts and berries kind of stuff. We're not doing that, but there's a lot of fun recipes in there. It's a fun Father's Day gift for anybody out there. You got an old man. Yeah, my dad's been gone. They're almost 40 years, but he would have liked this book. So try and buy a book. I just put in the Venmo and PayPal, or you can go to Amazon and get it there too. Yeah, whatever you like. Deluxe, haven't had dinner yet. Getting hungry by the second. Well, deluxe, if you sit here, there's a picture of me when I was younger cooking. Um, there's taco pizza, barbecue chicken pizza. I had some bad pizza the other day. I had a place where I've had good pizza before. One of the things I do a banana split in here. All I tell you is banana caramelizes, and it is the sweetest thing you ever ate. No, I'm not in Oakland Acres. I don't even know where that is, Steve. Let's see. Bacon cheeseburger, flank steaks with rum. Not for those under 18. And even things like, safe temperatures, how to do it. If you hold your hand over the grill, that shows you how you can figure out. I want you to read it all. And what the temperature is, there's a way of knowing that way. So all kind of stuff. So I hope somebody will buy it. You can go on Venmo or PayPal, like I have there. 15 bucks total, signed, sealed, delivered. It's usually 13, in tax, and then people add shipping. So you're getting a cheaper deal here. But you can go to Amazon too. I make about the same, I think, with them too. So, oh, they charge a lot. Man, postage anymore. This book costs $5 to ship. Little book like this, $5 to ship in the post office. 'Cause they keep raising their rates, and it's 8 ounces, and it's media mail, which is cheaper than regular mail. It gets treated well, but usually, I think my last book I did, with the presidential pours, I think I lost 3 or 4, got lost in the mail. Thank you, post office. Steve, hamburger helper. Okay, there's nothing wrong with hamburger helper, but this will do better. Oh, it says I was in Aldi's today, and they have a box special of meats. Wasn't a bad price, $65. And I've counted like probably 6, 7 meals. 2 pieces, and so about $10 a meal. wasn't bad. And we ate the steak tonight. It wasn't bad. So Aldi's got a big special. You can cook it. I'll show you how to cook it there on the grill. Also talk about flat tops and stuff like that. With my Blackstone. Caveman ribeye, New York steaks grilled directly. Yeah, on a lump of hot coal. Well, you can do it that way. I mean, that's kind of how the picture is. I don't know. Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? And there's about gas recipes, smokers. I'm not a big smoker guy because I don't have the patience for it. But I have some recipes on I've done there. So always fun. Nobody's ordered a book yet. Come on, you. Let's see. We got 13 guys. That's all we got tonight so far. Wow. Numbers are way down right now. I've noticed on social media just because you think there's not a lot of commanders talk, but actually there is. I mean, we did OTAs the other day. Need pictures of the garden. All right, Mike. Let's see here. Don't be bitching about you see a weed. I just was weeding on it after I took pictures. Okay, so there is the sunflowers. Still working on the weeding. Man, they're going, but okay, I have been weeding since this picture. But there's the corn, and corn is knee high. It's not the 4th of July. So that's all my yard in the back. So the corn's going great. We've had a lot of rain here this spring, unlike last year's drought. Should we talk about defenders, Bob? No, we're not talking about defenders. I'd love to give a book to my dad if he was still around. Well, yeah, my dad would be 94 if he were alive. He died when he was 58. I have to order your book, Rick. All right, so Joel. I didn't do it right, did I? All right, let me send it back to you. Up above is the how to buy it, but I'll put it there again. And I appreciate anybody who buys it. Shows me that you're not an ingrate. That I do this show. I've been hitting it since 7:30 this morning. But okay. All right, so let's talk about OTAs for a few minutes. Last week saw Wednesday's OTA. This week is again the media can only see one of the days. I don't know why. We used to see them all. Matter of fact, when he first came out with OTAs, we barely even went. I mean, the post guy and I were the only two who'd ever come. And if one of us needed a day off, we kind of agreed not to both come. Now there must have been a dozen cameras there last week. And everybody, everybody goes, ooh, does Jaden look bigger? Jaden looks bigger. Ooh, Jaden's been wearing. I don't know. His weight's listed the same. If he's stronger, well, could he? Did you see the Chicago game? I think he can throw the ball downfield last year. So, I don't see the big deal. Maybe he's a little more solid, and maybe that'll help him a little bit if he gets hit. But it's not a big deal on there. But that's what everybody ever talked about. Mike's got my other 2 books. Thanks. Order Caveman. Do you allow minors in the stream? Sure, as long as you're not being a jerk. Okay, Joel, enjoy reading the book. Thanks. Yeah, I guess he looks a touch bigger, but who cares? It's not like he was. It's not like he was Emmanuel Forbes, So that thing I didn't bother with. Jalen Lane, the 4th rounder out of Virginia Tech. I kind of just mentioned it, and everybody went, wow. I thought he had a good practice, very fast. And somebody said, they're all fast. Well, yeah, but he's faster than them. He has some speed. Supposed to be punt returning, good hands, made a really good difficult catch, twisting for it. I think Lane's going to be somebody to watch this fall. How he gets in the lineup with everybody else, I don't know, but good players tend to make the field. So I would expect something out of him. I hadn't really thought much about him until OTA last week. Who else? Let me see. I got my handy dandy thing. I'd forgotten about this, but they actually re-signed the quarterback. Who am I thinking of? The guy was with us, Johnson, was around. Oh, how many years? Josh Johnson. How many years ago has it been? He's got 16 years in the league for a guy that's barely played. He's my hero. That guy has more, stick to it is. I thought one thing I thought was really interesting was Ertz. I love Ertz. I say he'll slit your throat with a butter knife if that's what it takes. But he was just working on a basic stance, first move, how to move against the corner, something that he's done for 14 years. And he was as serious as anybody's going to be about that drill. And I said, there's how winners do. And I can remember older players always complaining, man, I've been doing this forever. And they said, and Marty Schottenheimer was a big one on, you still have to practice. Ertz doesn't have to worry about it. He's ready to go. He's practicing hard. I was impressed with that. I know a lot of people say, oh, I did a show with the Junkies a week or so ago, and they're like, maybe it's time to let him go. I thought, no. You don't get rid of people like Ertz. They're the ones that take you to the Super Bowl. Last year he was a big help. His numbers weren't as much as you might think, but that dude helps lead the charge. So I was a big fan of his in a way when he played for Philly. He just watched them beat Washington over and over. So now that he's on this side, I mean, this dude can play still. Does that stop other younger players? I would just tell them, get better and get on the field. It's not his fault if you're not on. Let's see. Steve, do you have a favorite recipe in the book? Well, let's see. Since you're my PR man, let's turn the page. Oh, heck, I don't know. Yeah, here you go. Yabba dabba do ribs. Okay. It's just like the ones Fred Flintstone had. We talk all about how to season them and cook them right. And I bought some ribs today at Aldi's. They had a good sale on them. So maybe, there's a lot of good ones. It's like trying to pick which one's your favorite child. For those of you who remember Vernon Davis, who played, the end of his career in Washington and was also at Maryland. Great tight end. He was named today as on the list for potential, college football Hall of Fame. He was a great player at Maryland. I covered them a lot when he was there. As a matter of fact, his first day he was there, he was 18. I talked to him. I watched him in practice, and I called up John Keim he was over at Redskins practice and said, hey, John, they got a guy better than anybody over at the Redskins here. And he proved to be that. He was a first round pick. He was a good player and good guy. I love Vernon Davis. Good guy. He understands the game of life just as well. So I'm hoping that he, makes it to the Hall of Fame. That would be great. He had a really good career at Maryland. Let's see. Joel, I remember Joe Gibbs put Desmond Howard on returning kicks. Yeah, he was fast. I don't remember the trick play offhand. The weirdest thing about Desmond is he would giggle a lot. When he first came and he go, yeah. And he still does it a little. I saw him on TV as an analyst and I thought, he still does it. And the old vets were like, who the hell is this? Giggling like, and they kind of turned their eye back to him. He wasn't, a big favorite around there. Not because he was a bad guy, but there was an old veteran team and they just shunned rookies a lot. Ribs. Yeah, Homer Simpson. Mike Nelms, great returner. It's funny. Somebody told me a great Mike Nelms story the other day. That his favorite, maybe Steve, was it you that told me this story? Where it was his favorite player, and he wore a 21 jersey once to a show that Nelms was signing, and Nelms couldn't believe that the guy was wearing his number, not Sean. 21. I don't know, because the guy asked me, guess my favorite player, from the 70s. He was 21, and I don't remember numbers because every year I've got to start over and learn about 50 new players and numbers. So they don't stick with me as well. Yeah, I know who 28 is and that kind of stuff, but and I just out of nowhere just said Mike Nelms, and he says, right. And I'm like, oh, if you had asked me what's Mike Nelms' number, I couldn't have told you. So where that comes from, who knows? But Nelms was a nice player. Didn't last a long time on there, but he was good. This Wednesday they're going to be doing OTA again, which is about an hour and a half. They do it several days. We just get to see one of them. But I'll say last week's, I kind of wondered, okay, it's year two. Does the team respond to Quinn's, let's go get him, kind of attitude? I mean, it was great because somebody asked Quinn after practice, you know, last year you were the hunter. This year you're going to be the hunted. And Quinn was like, no, no, we remain the hunters. We remain the hungry ones. It was a great response. I wrote it on Yardbarker. If you go over to Yardbarker, you can find it there. I'll be writing for Yardbarker this season, and not as often as you might think, but enough. So that's coming. And the rest, I thought practice was really up tempo, very big. It was in the bubble because it was raining like crazy outside. But this week it should be outdoors. And then next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and maybe Thursday, they don't always do the last day, is mini camp. And then after that, see ya. Everybody's gone for like 6 weeks. I'm going to do a couple more Mondays and finish this up. And then I'm going out for goof off for a few weeks. One other thing came out today that the team's PR staff won the Pete Rozelle Award for the best PR staff in the league. And I did a video on it today. If you see it, I think I've seen 16 PR staffs. I kind of lost track. The first one I dealt with, always thought was the best one, which was Charlie Taylor and Charlie Dayton and all. They were real pros. But I thought the recent one with Sean, Charlie, and Samantha are a terrific trio. I mean, they're younger than a lot of them, but they've been doing it now for several years together, and they do a great job. And to be honest, if they were jerks about everything, like I've had to deal with for about 25 years, I think I'd retire rather than just deal with it anymore. I had so many bad PR people that Dan Snyder just made do terrible things. It was just so unprofessional. There was a good person here and there, and they would never last because they couldn't handle Dan. But this group has done a great job. So congrats to them for winning a PR award like that. That's a big deal. I remember Dan Snyder once said, well, our PR staff's going to win it one year. I thought, you have to buy it because you guys are jerks. You don't want to hear about all the nasty stuff they did to me, but I'm still here. They're not. Let's see. Mojo, with the stadium vote a month away, it's not a month away. Well, certain council members' demands be so outrageous it will cost us the deal. Okay. The deal is they're supposed to do it by July 15th, but it's part of the mayor's overall budget. And there ain't a chance in hell that that's going to happen by July 15th. They're thinking more August. What does that mean? Well, if you've ever done real estate contracts, you basically have a deadline date. You X out that date, everyone initials it and write down the new date. And that's what's going to happen here. They're all going to say, it's not like you say, oh, I'm sorry, Maryland. We're going to move to Maryland tomorrow. I mean, they can wait. So Josh Harris has been busy lobbying the council. To my opinion is right now it's either 7-4 or 6-5-4, and they'll get the needed vote. And they're just holding out to get more stuff. And yeah, that's how the game's played. This is DC. This is how the sausage is made. You get stuff to give stuff. You don't just hand out your vote. If you ever look at the big omnibus spending bills of all this pork stuff that's out there, that's how it works. So if you're the one getting the stuff, it's a great deal. If you're the one having to give it, kind of sucks. But I saw Josh Harris donated $5 million to his old high school. It was called the Field. It's one of those kind of independent schools for rich people. And he went there as a kid and said he did a great job for him. And so their football team and field house and all, he paid for it all. Good for him. It's going to get hot this week. Yeah, Mike, I'm trying to ignore that. That's why I've been out in the garden working like a fool, trying to get everything done before it does get hot. Any more joint practices? Well, I mean, Greg, the Ravens confirmed that they have a joint practice against Washington. I think New England's figuring one too. So we haven't heard anything else. Otherwise, I think this week I was told that they're going to figure out when they're starting training camp. I mean, it's around the last day of July, give or take a day. There will be, some practices for you to go see in Ashburn, but then none of that's been announced yet. Craven, what's my NBA Finals prediction? I'll take the Thunder. I mean, I don't watch a lot of pro basketball, just don't have time. But I'm going to take Oklahoma on that one. Gregory, you expect construction still in 2025? No, no, it never was. I don't think construction's going to, you got to do permits and all that stuff. They still got to finish knocking down RFK. So it's going to take about 2027 is when they're hoping to really hit it, and then take about 3 years to build it and open in 2030. That's the hopes. Yeah, but we'll see. Steve, DraftKings is given a plus 25,000 bet on the Commanders going 17-0 regular season. A $10 bet will win you 2,500. All right. Well, no. I mean, no one's ever done that. I mean, you're throwing $10 away. There's no way they're going 17-0. I mean, what the Dolphins were, was it 14-0 or 6? It was like 14-0, right? Back when the Dolphins did it, they weren't playing 6, or were they playing 16 by then? I don't think so. I think it was still 14. Roost, $5.99. Can council vote on stadium more than once if it doesn't pass the summer? Sure, you can make changes and bring it back. Mike, Jack Kent Cooke has a foundation that gives out scholarships. Right. So Cook put all of his money, that was the shocker. All the net proceeds as a team sale went to this Jack Kent Cooke Foundation for scholarships, originally for grad school scholarships. But they have to give out by law 5% of the money a year, and they couldn't give enough away. So they made it underclassmen too. So if you got a kid going to college, go look on Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, I think .org, and apply, because they're looking for money. Wouldn't that be cool? To get a scholarship from them. Okay, George. Yeah, 14. So, all right. Thank you. So the Dolphins went 14-0. Now they won playoff games too, but 17-0? No. Mojo, any news on Gabe Taylor? Well, I haven't signed him, and I haven't heard anything else about him. Yeah, nice college player. He might make somebody's practice squad. The burden of being Sean's younger brother, I think makes it kind of a hard click here in DC, because people will expect him to be more than he really is. I would tell him to find a spot you think you can really contribute and go there. Steve, I laughed when the undefeated Patriots lost the Super Bowl. Yeah, everybody was ready for that one, huh? And they got beat. Eli, 2 rings, man. Who would have guessed that one? That just shows you. I mean, is Eli going to the Hall of Fame? I'm going to say yes, because he's New York too, and New York media can try and push it through. And they only have so many votes as anybody else, but still, it's New York. So I wouldn't be surprised if Eli gets in. Is he a better quarterback? And several guys like Marino never won a Super Bowl. So, and you can't even compare Eli to Marino. I mean, come on. Gregory, do you think Washington does any more trades in the offseason? Don't think so. I mean, they only have 5 draft picks for next year. You could trade a player. Maybe they trade Lattimore for somebody straight up, but something like that. But the first OTA, we didn't see Tunsil, Lattimore, or Terry McLaurin, who's angling for a contract extension. And so you know how that goes. And I'm not worried about Terry not being there. I would have liked to have seen Tunsil there, because welcome to the new team, and Lattimore would be nice to see after all the injuries of last year, and get a full year with the team. And I don't know their reasons for not coming. They may have valid reasons. Hopefully they show up this week for it, but they don't have to. It's voluntary. And the next week minicamp is mandatory. So if nothing else, we'll see them then. Okay. Yeah, we got a small crew tonight, huh? Don't we? Well, you get your questions in. All right. So as we're halfway through the show. Once again, Rick's going to bed because nobody's bought a book yet. And you can get Secrets of Caveman Cooking from me, where I just put it in the chat, $15. Or you can go to Amazon and get it there too. But lots of secret recipes. It's a fun thing. Buy it for your dad for Father's Day. I'll sign it and ship it tomorrow. Um, and if you can't, well, then you guys are just a bunch of ingrates. What can I tell you? I keep it. People keep saying, "Why don't you get a sponsor for the show? Why don't you?" Because I don't like to have sponsors somehow dictate what goes on in this show or asking for certain things. I like to keep it between us. I don't charge. I don't put it behind a paywall because I like everybody to be able to try and do this. But I don't work for free all the time either. Life's getting expensive out there, so be nice to contribute and help out. You can hit the dollar sign and just tip me money, but I would rather you just go ahead and buy a book. $15, come on. Gregory, you like the bye week this year after the Madrid game? I think it's the best way to go on there. I don't have any of you are going to Madrid. I gave it some real thought and decided not to because nobody pays my way, even though I can write off my taxes. But I just decided I have other things I want to do. And so Madrid's not on my bucket list to go. If it was in Paris or something, maybe. Mike, what is your guess to when the deal is done with Terry? I think by end of minicamp, I would expect. They always have these things where they like to have some momentum and big, happy news and all that stuff. So I think maybe by end of next week. Wouldn't surprise me. All right. Ooh, call up to everybody. All right. What we got? So I'm trying to think what else is happening lately. Been kind of quiet other than that. I mean, the OTA was nice. I mean, Jaden looked fine throwing the ball around on that. And you can't see a whole lot in OTAs because they're not allowed to hit each other. But occasionally somebody gets whacked. Somebody falls down. Things do happen. But nothing happened the first time, worth noting. So we'll see. It should be outside this time. That tends to liven things up a little more. Steve wanted to go to Spain with your Spanish class. Man, you must go to a rich kid school. But your folks said no. Yes, that's true. You can drink sangria here. Man, I went to a farm school outside of DC, and we didn't even get to go to DC, for trips or anything. Went to the field. I think anything less than playoffs would be a letdown. Absolutely, Greg. I mean, I don't know that they win 12 games this year, but I think they can win 10 or 11. I think my first run through the schedule, I had 11 wins. I mean, last year you got to remember they won a lot of games at the buzzer. They won the last four like that, and won Tampa like that. So, Mike, what did Debo look like in practice? It's just kind of pitch and catch. So can't say I saw Debo do anything to maybe go wow, but I'll keep an eye on it, and see what happens. He talked to the media afterwards. Seems like cool enough guy. So I haven't talked about this, but I am one chapter away from finishing the new Jane Daniels book that'll be out this fall. I got a publisher deadline in a couple weeks. I got one last chapter to do. And it's all about Jaden's first season in the NFL and all the great things that happen. I think I talk about 6 different games and some stuff, his relationship with others, that kind of stuff. So you can look for that around the beginning of the season. They haven't told me anything yet, haven't told me the title yet. They kind of just called me up and said, "Hey, we need a Jaden Daniels book. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Are you crazy? I can't do anything that quick." And they said, "We'll pay you this much." I'm like, "Okay, see you then." so hopefully doing the last interview Wednesday and doing the last chapter. So if you don't buy that book, then I'm shutting down the show. All right, Gregory, is this the best wide receiver course in Santana Moss trade? Probably. I mean, you look how many guys they have now. I mean, Noah Brown's back too. He had a decent year before he got hurt. Of course, he won the big game, but he basically just had to catch the pass to him, but he did. So you've got that. I mean, does McCaffrey make the team? I don't know, on that. Does Lane, make the team or go to the practice squad when he could be a gadget guy for them? So there's a lot that goes on that. Dizzy, is caveman cooking about grilling burgers? Well, it's about outdoor cooking, but we talk about lots of stuff here. We do turkey, shrimp on the barbie, shark steaks. Let's talk about that. Honey barbecue chicken, hot wings, chicken wings. I got sauce recipes in here. I talk a little bit about smokers, gas. I like gas grill more because it's quicker. Wood chips, how to feed the clan, how much food you need to do it. Everybody eats like carnivores, so it's always more than you think. Food temperatures. Yeah, I got sweet sauces and refrigerator sauce, and I got pizza recipes in here. It's a fun, simple book. It's actually this book I wrote in 2000, and it went through its cycle, and eventually authors get their book rights back, kind of inside publishing thing. And so I got it back, and I decided to update it, new cover, but a dozen new recipes also in there. I don't know how many people bought this back in 2000. I never got they bought it outright, so I never saw a sales record. I don't think a lot, and not a lot of you buying it now. But this is a fun book, and you can buy it for your dad or somebody or an uncle or some guy in your life. 4th of July is coming up too, so if you want to grill it, if you can think about it, you can cook it basically. And there's my PayPal and Venmo, or you can go on Amazon, just buy it off of them if you like. But I sign them. Amazon can't. No auto pen on Amazon. Does Harris have the RFK deal backup plan, Gregory? Well, yeah. I mean, Maryland's the backup plan if it doesn't go, but that's not what they're thinking about right now. Steve, watch the Defenders game on Friday. I bet the Redskins Bucks rainy day. Yeah, it was a miserable day. Doug was the Bucks quarterback in '82. Yeah, because then he came out. Free agency was happening. So '83. Well, he wouldn't get here till '87. I mean, the interesting thing of Doug, I talked to him the other day because he's a big Jaden guy, and they talk every morning. It's in the book that I'm writing, but things like Doug told me, listen, Jaden doesn't need another coach. We got lots of those, but I'm here to help him with his life. And they meet every morning and talk about whatever Jay wants to talk about in his life on there. I mean, the young guys, they can use emotional support just for somebody to talk to. It's a big deal, more than you'd think. Got to remember, you're 22 in a new city, don't know anybody. You're making money, but everybody, of course, wants part of it. You don't know who to trust, that kind of stuff. So these guys face a lot of challenges on there. Mike thinks McCaffrey might be the odd man out. It's possible, but they drafted him last year, and so they're not so quick to get rid of him. My kid's going to order for Father's Day to Dizzy. Okay, well, look forward to it, Dizzy. What's the kid's name so I know it? I can spot it. For the flood of orders coming in, might be the only one. Bruce, can the DC Council justify saying no? Sure, they're short-term thinking. I mean, the big thinking is there's a couple of things at play here. DC has realized they can't count on the federal government to carry the economy anymore, not with all these cutbacks that Trump has made, all these jobs that are lost, the agencies doing. I don't know what the future holds, but it doesn't look good. And so all that federal money is declining, not gone, but it's declining. DC's like, what are we going to do to make this up? Entertainment, tourism, sports. Get those things in here. They can bring in a lot of money. So that's why they're making this big push for all this. Now, DC Council people would say, we got poor people here and we got hungry people here and we have to help them. Hey, man, we've been talking about that since we went to the moon in the 60s. People said, why are we going to the moon? We got hungry people here on Earth. You know what? We're always going to have hungry people. I'm not saying that's just dismiss it, but we're always going to do it. Now we're saying, why go to Mars? We got hungry people here. See, nothing changes. So this will be economy. Harris has been talking about it. Says Mayor, DC's got to put money into this deal. You're not getting a free ride, but they're going to get it back and more. Look at Nats Park. Look how Nats Park has transformed, that part of town. Huge, huge impact. The arena had a huge impact on Penn Quarter. And this will too. It'll be jobs, it'll be money. Everybody's going to make money on this deal. Now, you and I can't afford tickets anymore, so the rich folk will be going instead of us. But, that's another discussion. Mike, Jane's mom's a licensed sports agent, correct? Um, I've never met her. I've heard a lot about her, but I have not, she's not on the sidelines of practice. Yeah. Um, Roost. Okay, so we just did that. So, how are we fixing the defensive end, Gregory? My guess at this point is they go looking for him when everybody makes their cuts in August or September, whatever it's going to be this year. They're looking at final cuts of other teams and seeing who can they get that's better than who they have. That would be my guess for it. But you're not going to find Reggie White's type player. Okay, so Deshaun will be hosting the NFL draft and a Super Bowl offset the cost DC would have to put in. Well, Super Bowls are usually worth about 300 million or so to a local economy, based on past ones. So there's a big chunk right there. The draft, I don't know how many people come in for the draft versus locals, but it'll still be cool, And people in Maryland and Virginia will come in and they'll park, they'll take the metro, they'll drink, I have a feeling there'll be beer for sale. So you're going to get a piece of that too. So, and then there's just the games, and there's 200. They're figuring on 200 events a year. It's not just for Commanders games. Now you get Taylor Swift concerts. You always heard about how much money that's worth. Stuff like that. You get maybe the Final Four. You get all these other things, and that, yes, this will pay for itself. All right. When will they try to do a long-term deal with Jaden? Mike B, he's got 3 years left and then a year option. So I don't think they do anything until that option year because it's going to be big money when Jaden resigns. I was just trying to think if Jaden's next contract, 4 years, 300 plus million because the cap keeps going up. So in 4 more years, it'll be bigger. Some of these guys are getting near 75 million now. Certainly if he has the next 3 years are as good as his first year, they're going to have to pay him 80 million a year or something insane like that, because that's just how it'll work. So he'll be getting 300 million plus. So he signed his first deal for like 35 million. So, I mean, he can get by on that until then. One thing I do like to do first day of OTAs, I wrote something about it. I like to look in the parking lot and see what the cars are. Who spent money on a car? I didn't get to hear the names yet because I didn't get to talk to all the players, but like somebody had like a milk chocolate Jaguar, and that thing looked awesome. It looked like it could run 1,000 miles an hour. It was beautiful. I got to find out whose car that is. I want to go for a ride. Over the years, I've met some players with some really interesting. Michael Westbrook had his Lamborghini. Never gave me a ride, but one day he and I both pulled up to a light at the same time in Ashburn. So I revved my engine at him, and he took off like the space shuttle. He was gone, but he had fun, And then Darryl Green's driving a VW Beetle from the '60s, But there was that. There was a yellow Tesla. I have no idea whose it was. I'd never seen a yellow Tesla. A couple of old Mustangs in the parking lot. So it's always cool to see where the money goes. I mean, there's tons of F-150s. But then again, F-150s are the most popular truck in America now. So I had a cousin that used to build them at the Ford Motor Plant, and he would be underneath it. His job was to like bolt stuff in above them, and he had to have shoulder surgeries and everything from just repetitive, putting stuff in for 8 hours a day. Who could be the Commander's sack leader this year? Wow, Steve, that's a good one. Frankie Louvu. How about that? I don't know. Try. That kind of stuff I haven't even thought about. Deluxe prediction that they extend them after year 3. Don't think so. I don't see it. I agree with your point about cheaper, but Gregory, you want to see Rodgers? You see, Roger wants to increase international games to 16. Yeah, they're going for international money expansion, man. That's how you keep growing. I don't agree with it. I think the NFL European division is coming. Like they're making Minnesota go to consecutive games in Europe. And that's kind of a test to see how a team does for 2 weeks. Because when they do have an NFL European division 4 team, Yeah, man, they were talking about how much money that was going to be too. For like rights to buy a team might be something like $20 million, 20 billion at that point. Um, they want to see how teams do being on the. You'll probably play two games on the road like that. If you're playing that division, you would play two teams on the road, two teams at home under the current format. So that's what it would be like. You go over there for 2 weeks, a week and a half, really. And so that's part of what they're experimenting with Minnesota to see. Mike, any cyber trucks? I saw one. I think cyber trucks are awful. They're awful looking. Daniel, good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. What was it, 8:40 already? Not one of you has bought a book, from what I can see yet. Um, yeah, I haven't got any messages yet. Okay, I'm going to hit the thumbs up button if nothing else, guys. That makes the algorithm happy. Doesn't make me care, but whatever. Gregory, I don't see Jacksonville moving full time anymore. I kind of agree with you there. Although they could become one of the London teams, and then that opens up another U.S. city, which I'd like to say St. Louis, but there's a lot of hard feelings about what happened there, so I'm not sure if that would happen. They talk about Austin, but Austin, I'm not sure is really the place for it. We'll see. What kind of old Mustangs? The ones Ducks. Well, they were trying to think, 70s models. The ones I kind of grew up around. They looked old, and the paint jobs sucked. So somebody got them cheap. To me, I think that must be a rookie. I got one for a few bucks. Okay, Bob, interesting story. Somebody worked for Westbrook and let her drive the Lamborghini. Woo! Wow. Okay, that's cool. Michael and I didn't get along very well, so he would have run me over in his Lamborghini. I have, yeah, Steve. I've seen that Cybertruck too. I heard somebody lives in La Plata. I just think Cybertrucks are ugly. You forget your politics part of all this. I just think they're ugly cars. And I'm not buying an electric car. And I'm not buying a hybrid. Man, I was renting cars and at the light, your thing shuts down and then it comes back on and you feel like you broke down. No, it's jerking. Oh God, did I hate that. I'm staying with a gas engine and I'm old enough to get away with it. Although my car's 20 years old. So I got a Toyota 4Runner, still running almost 300,000 miles. I haven't paid a car payment in about 20 years. I'm just staying with that. I can't stand these things that go back and forth. I got rental cars. I rented cars in Vegas. I had 3 different cars in 5 days. Thank you, Enterprise. They kept breaking down, including the third one broke down, but I had a flat tire when I got it and I had to pump it with that weird stuff, that foam stuff they tell you to do. It did work. I got it to the airport. And then I was in Los Angeles. I didn't get an Enterprise after that. I got another company. I forget which one. And no AC worked. And it almost made the car red line overheat when I put it on. The rental cars suck. All right, Gregory. San Diego and St. Louis got screwed. Yeah, I can see maybe San Diego too might be one. Hard to say. They're both certainly, opportunities. People talk about Portland. I don't see that offhand. I haven't heard anybody talk about Portland. Steve, 300,000 miles. That's right, baby. I take care of that car. Hey, Court, glad to see you. And if you're just joining the show, like Court, I don't know where you've been. Everything, as soon as we finish, it all goes on replay. So if you came in late and you want to see the earlier stuff, just wait a couple minutes and YouTube will have it back clicking over again. Mike, electric cars will burn your house down. Okay, so Carlisle, Pennsylvania, for those old Redskins fans. Any of you went to Carlisle, you might have noticed that there were no driveways at the homes in Carlisle. You had to park on the street. And they told me the mayor got the first car in Carlisle, parked it in a garage. It caught fire that night and burned down the house. And that's why there are no driveways in Carlisle. Last time I was there, it's been years since I've been there, but that's why they didn't have them. It was pretty funny. I thought, wow, I talk about random stuff. I just knew all the gossip. All right, Steve. I'd say St. Louis and maybe San Antonio. I mean, San Antonio is a cool town. I'll say that. I've been there. You go to the Alamo, and you go, "Where is it?" And they go, "It's right in front of you." And I'm like, "Seriously, this is it?" They kept the Mexican army out for 13 days. I could have SEAL Team 6 in here in 10 minutes. I give those guys credit for holding them off 13 days. I mean, because it's nothing to look at. Bob, plus your horn still works on the one you have now. That's true. I use it for for videos now and then because I don't have a bell with me. The bell stays here. It doesn't go on the road. Why was the practice facility in Carlisle, Karush? Well, Washington used to practice on the West Coast, believe it or not, and for many years in California. And then they would take the train back and play games off the train. This is way back. And that's kind of the way they made a lot of money playing in different cities, especially in the South. And they get big crowds because the Redskins were there. But finally, they went to Carlisle in the 60s. I forget what year. Um, and they were there until what year did we stop going? You guys remember the stuff more than me. Because then we went back for 2 years. Oh, I know what it was. 95. We went to Frostburg for 5 years. And then, oh God, I hated that. I like Frostburg's weather. It's nice and cool. But like if you're in Washington today, the weather you saw today was August in Frostburg. It was awesome. We didn't even have AC. But then Snyder took over the team again and brought him back. We went to Carlisle for 2 years. Again, I think it was 01 and 02 maybe. And then back. And what I understand, they're not going anywhere for training camp in the near future. They're going to be at Ashburn. And part of that's the stadium and a lot going on there. So I don't expect them to leave Ashburn for training camp until at least the new stadium. And I don't know if there's nowhere in DC to go practice necessarily. In the 60s, yeah, all right. So 69. So I don't know when they went to Carlisle, but in 69, they actually practiced outside Georgetown Hospital in a big open field because Lombardi was undergoing cancer treatments. That was 1970. So Lombardi would watch practice from his hospital room window. And then guys like Sonny and Sam and all team leaders would go up after practice and talk to Lombardi and get whatever his instructions were. And he would die just weeks later. But they actually just had a big open field. Yeah, the NFL wasn't this big mega thing that everybody. The Redskins had the very first daily training facility in the league. Built it, I want to say it was 71, something like that, when George Allen came. And it's still there. It's now a church. And the goalposts are still up, and the kids play youth football on the ball fields there. It's not that far from the new Redskin Park. For years, we get people coming by in the evening and say, "Hey, man, my kid's supposed to be playing here. Where?" I said, "No, the old park. It's on the other side of the toll road." That happened a lot for the first few years. Jerry would block San Antonio. Well, Jerry's getting old, Bob. I don't know. McCaffrey breakout year, Trampus. Well, he didn't have very much of a first year, so anything would be breaking out. Hello from Alabama. Okay, Nathan. Well, you're used to the heat down in Alabama. Mike, I went to Frostburg when Heath Schuler and Gus Frerotte were rookies. All right, so that was well, they weren't rookies because Heath came in '94, I think, something like that. So Heath was '94 as a rookie. How I remember that, I don't know. Michael Westbrook was a rookie in '95. Why so far with the DMV with those two? Well, Karush, yeah, you gotta read. You gotta buy some other book of mine. Where is it? All right, Karush, if you want to buy, you can go to Amazon and buy it. I have all the stories like that in this book. You can get it on Amazon. And what they did is they wanted the new stadium in Landover. Okay, so like I talked about the DC State Council wanting things. That's what happened with Frostburg. The head of the Maryland General Assembly was from Western Maryland with Frostburg. And he said, if you want $70 million in infrastructure costs for your new stadium in Landover, well, I've got a really nice little college in the middle of nowhere I'd like you to practice for in the summer because the 6 weeks you're there is money that comes into the community. And I don't think, and nobody really went to go watch practice. They didn't get the money they were hoping for, but it was better than nothing. And that's why we're in Frostburg as a political payback to get in the new stadium. That's why DC, no different what they're trying to pull off. Glendale or Op? I don't know that one, Steve. Did Gibbs ever coach before Washington? Well, Greg, he was an assistant coach with San Diego, offensive coordinator. So he'd never been a head coach. And when Gibbs gets signed, Bobby Bedford did all this. And he picked out an offensive coordinator. We've seen this since Gruden, Norv, that kind of stuff. And they start off 0-3. And Jack Kent Cook is on Bobby's butt saying, my God, who the hell did you get? Who is this Joe Gibbs guy? I trusted you. And if you lose next week, I'm firing both of you. And they did lose the next week. And they hid from Cook all week. And then they lost the next week. They lost again. They're 0-5. Cook is insanely mad. And luckily, they won the next week. They won a Super Bowl 2 years later. And Cook claimed that he always knew Joe would be good. So you always take the credit there. Mike, Shepherdstown. Just from what I'm hearing, no. Shepherdstown's not really. It's not NFL training camp material. I think I've been to Shepherdstown. I know where it is. But it's a nice little town, but I don't see it. Worse than Frostburg? Probably somewhere on par, I guess. Will the team get new training facilities in Ashburn? Roost. Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, they're still spending a lot of money fixing up the old park, but it's just not big enough. So, it was built when there were 45-man rosters. Today you've got practice squad, you've got 53-man roster. So you got about 70 people instead of 45, and it just can't handle it. So that's the biggest reason why. And there's a lot more staff at the park now than there used to be. They're not all there. They also have staff over in College Park by University of Maryland to take partly to benefit from all the interns and stuff like that there. But they have their corporate office there in Maryland, at least for now. If they move to DC, that probably changes. Trampus, will the DC Council approve the budget? Well, I mean, outside of the stadium, I don't know. I guess they always have things they want to change. So we'll see. Deshaun Gibbs was the OC at Tampa Bay when they drafted Doug Williams. Yep. So then, yes, that's why they came in '87 because he knew Doug. Doug was, a really good player who played on awful Tampa Bay teams and got beat to death. And, if he had landed on a really good team, he'd be, even a legend more than he is. He's a legend in DC. He was a good ball player, and then he's coached a lot of places too. But Doug now is 70-ish. So, I laugh. One time, Joe, I hadn't seen Doug in years at one time. And I saw him and he goes, man, I don't recognize you. I said, well, I had hair back when you played. We all got older. So I was 27. Matter of fact, I talked to Doug about something that happened. And he didn't remember it. And I'm sure I know why. But they win the Super Bowl. And 2 days later, I'm at Redskin Park just kind of doing mop-up duty. And Doug came in to get his mail out of back then the media room was also part of the admin offices. And this kid came in and saw Doug, and he was delivering a pizza. He rips the top off the pizza box and gets Doug to sign it. And I asked Doug the other day, do you remember that? And he said, no. He said, but it sounds like something that would have happened. I was like, okay, plausible deniability. I live off that dream. All right, we've got 5 minutes to go. I hope all of you have saved your money up and you will buy this after the show for Secrets of Caveman Cooking. $15, signed, sealed, delivered. You can't beat that. You can go to Amazon. If you got Prime, it's about that. It's $12.95 on Amazon, plus you pay tax. And if you don't have Prime, you got to pay shipping. It's a lot. So post office is outrageous how much they cost to ship books. So anyway, I hope you do. And here, I'll stick it in one more time. Here's the Venmo and PayPal accounts so you can pay directly. And I'll mail it tomorrow. So we can dedicate it to somebody in your life you like. Make sure you put your address in there. Let's see. Gregory, still shocked Snyder got Gibbs. I am too. I often say now, I never say never because I never thought Joe Gibbs would come coach for Dan Snyder. I would have put all my chips in on that one. So, so you can never say never. I'll give Dan credit. He pulled that one off out of nowhere. That was probably his biggest achievement as a owner. And then Joe was tired of coaching after 4 years. He had a grandson going through leukemia treatments. Sean Taylor died, and Joe was just ready to go. So it wasn't, Snyder didn't want him to go. Snyder idolized Gibbs. That was one coach he didn't mess with. And they went to the playoffs 2 out of 4 years, but they had trouble getting any kind of momentum. But, had Joe stayed longer, I guess it'd have been better. But, you can't keep asking Joe to stay here forever. He's now 80, I believe, or 81. We're all getting older. All right, finishing up. Anybody got last questions on here? Next week, I will be doing 2 more Mondays because we have OTAs I'll talk about next Monday and mini camp the following week. And then everybody takes off for about 6 weeks, and so am I. Much as I enjoy our time together and benefit so richly since no one kicked in $1 to buy a book, but whatever, at least hit the thumbs up button. You can do something for me there. And I know it sounds like I'm a greedy bastard, but this is free. It's time. Everybody's got value on their time. If you want to go on a tour in DC, I've actually just took a bunch of fans around. You can go to ricksnyderswashington.com and we can talk about a tour when you're coming to town. And I already have people saying, hey, I'm coming to town this fall for a game and I want to do the tour, whatever. It's all there. You can do it. I'll be coming back, Greg, right around when training camp starts, end of July, something there. What's the last day in July? Let's see. The last Monday in July is the 28th. So, all right, I'm going to type it in now. Resume show. And there you go. 28th. I'll be back then. How's that? July 28th. More or less. I'll be older then. I'll be on Medicare. All right, Steve, you leaving? I haven't officially gone off the air yet. You don't leave early. Okay, so now, there you go. I'm Rick Snyder. Thanks for coming to the show. You can watch your replays, whatever. You can order the books. You can go to Amazon. Try and make sure Rick doesn't starve to death. Do these books for you guys. New Redskin book coming out, or new Commanders book coming out end of August on Jaden Daniels. I'm getting tired. Been hitting it since 7:30. So anyway, thank you all for coming. I do appreciate it so much. And I will see you again next Monday. And don't forget, videos are 6 a.m., every day. And most evenings I try to do it, but not always. All right. Anyway, see you guys.